I didn't know being sick was first come first serve. So this happened to me a while ago, 2014-ish, when I worked at a fast food restaurant in the UK with a red-headed clown as a mascot as well as for some of the managers there. I have tons of malicious compliance stories from this place and one day I will get round to posting them all, but for now here is this one. Now, being an eating establishment, hygiene is very important, as you can imagine. The policy when I started there, and as far as I am aware is the same to this day, maybe even more strict considering the whole pandemic thing that's happening, was that if you were sick you had to have 48 hours off from the time you call in sick to ensure that you are better for returning to work so you don't poison the customers. Makes sense, right? I'm ill, I'm handling food, I'm going to get others sick.
I'm not feeling great at all this shift. I was feeling a little off in the morning but thought I might be able to get better by the evening when my shift is. Over the day I started to get a cough, fever, runny and blocked nose, headache, full-on cold. The policy also states that if you are going to call in sick it should be no later than 2 hours before your shift starts. Fair enough. It gets to 2 hours before my small 4-hour shift and I feel dreadful, so I call up the manager on the shift that day. Hi manager, it's Boland /cough / I feel awful, I shouldn't be working today /sniff /. Manager, you can't be sick, we need you in today.
I really am not well, I am coughing and my nose is running everywhere /deep heavy cough /. Manager, I have already had 3 people call in sick for today, so you need to be here, see you in a couple hours /hangs up /. So here I'm dripping with sweat, looking like death could take me at any moment, so with a small smirk on my face I think, okay, guess I'm going to work tonight. I proceed to get ready, get in the car and drive to work. Now there is no back door for employees to slip into at this place, so we have to use the main entrance and walk through the dining area to go into the back of the kitchen. So step 1, make sure I'm seen by as many people as possible looking like something out of a horror movie.
I shamble through the front door, making sure to have a fit of coughing complete in my uniform so all the customers can see I am unwell. I make sure to wave and say hi to my colleagues on the counter in the huskiest voice I have before. Wandering though to the door that leads to the kitchen. At this point I would like to say that I was in fact very sick that day and I should not have been working, but I wanted to teach my boss a lesson, so I might have exaggerated my symptoms just a little bit to make sure the point stuck. I make it to the break room where 2 of my crewmates are and immediately both ask if I'm feeling alright. I tell them no, but I have a point to prove, which is why I'm here. I check the rota in the break room and bingo, I'm on the register. Front of house. Everyone can see me. This is perfect for step 2, to ensure each person I serve questions if I'm fit to work. I wander through the kitchen to the register and start working. My first customer places an order in. They look a little wary. I get them their food, they go and sit down to start eating. My boss has seen this exchange and you can see the gears turning in his head. Can't be having a zombie serving food. I know, let's put them in the kitchen where they can't be seen. I get told to swap with a person who is working grill. So yes, I am no longer seen by anyone, but they have moved me from working with wrapped food, which I couldn't contaminate, to working with creating the food from scratch. Great idea there, boss. FYI, I never intentionally poisoned someone's food. I was trying to be very good and stepped out the kitchen every time I needed to cough and blow my nose, washed my hands and then got back to it.
I have been working for an hour or so now, still 3 to go, and by this point I'm feeling lightheaded and unable to focus on what I am doing. I'm not exaggerating anymore, I am not good at all. It's not very busy, so I'm just trying to keep myself on my feet. In walks the night manager, who happens to be the acting store manager too. Night manager, evening Boland. Me, / grunts and sniffs / Night manager, are you feeling alright? Me, / slowly shakes head /
Night manager, why didn't you call in sick? Quote, me, I did. I was told that others had already called in sick, so I had to be here. She looks around at the pretty empty restaurant and plenty of staff, including the manager who had me come in, sitting in the dining area pretending to look busy while being on his phone. Night manager. Clock out. Go home. Get better and don't worry about your shifts for the next 2 days. I nod, and just before I go to get my stuff I see her storm to the manager in the break area before dragging him into the office. I go back to work after a couple of days like I was told, feeling 100%. I am greeted by the night manager who checks on me, which I'm grateful for. I start to work and get caught up on the workplace gossip. Turns out a manager who made me work that day was given a right bollocking that night, and he turned in his resignation the next day, or so the rumor goes. TLDR, manager makes me work while sick, so I make sure everyone questions whether it is safe to eat there.
Honestly, I think this is a perfect mix of going above and beyond for customer service as well as malicious compliance. You still tried to warn the customers that you weren't well instead of hiding it so they could make an informed decision about eating there. 10 tenths would give gold if I had any.
Why do I get the feeling that there are quite a few places that have managers like this? I remember when I worked in a cafe food place over the summer during uni. The manager was a right boss too. Lots of days where help was not a priority, and seen as an excuse for days off, and talking about his sex adventures with his wife and covering up sexual misconduct stories and affairs amongst the staff. Pretty sure that was the moment I decided part-time office work was the way to go for me during that time instead. When I was younger, I was a manager at a popular dine-in restaurant, and everybody would wait until I was on shift to call in sick or otherwise ask for time off for other important things, because I was the only manager who treated people like humans. If you called in to the other managers, they would tell you that you need to call around and find someone to cover your shift. And if you can't find anyone, tough luck. In my view, that's not how it should work. It should be the employer who is responsible to cover shifts unless it is for something frivolous. It's pure laziness of the managers who don't want to take the time to find someone to fill in, and possibility have to offer an incentive to get someone to come in. And if no one is found, ultimately it is the manager who has to step in and do the work that isn't being done, which the others were too lazy to do. I worked at a pizza place in college. I never called out. I was honestly one of the only reliable employees, and management made sure I knew that was appreciated. We had a blanket rule that if you were scheduled on a holiday, you could not call out. This was to deter people from calling in sick when they just wanted to enjoy the holiday. The night before I started feeling a little under the weather during my evening shift. I asked a supervisor what would happen if I needed to call out of work the next night, and she said that I would probably be fired on the spot. Great. On night I feel like I was hit by a truck. Fever, congestion, body aches, chills, the whole nine. But I go into work anyways. Supervisor is standing next to manager by the clock-in station and starts teasing me a little about needing to suck it up. I can normally take a joke and this wouldn't have bothered me, but I was just so sick I started tearing up. Manager comes over and puts her hand on my back to comfort me and just goes, "I can feel your fever through your shirt. Don't clock in. Go home. Why are you even here?" I start to tell her about the holiday policy and she just goes, "Oh my God. I know you're sick. Just go to bed. Of course you're not fired. Who even told you that?" I didn't rat out the manager, but she quickly left the room to avoid any drama. I feel like that should be a sackable offense from your manager. Go over his head and report him. I can't imagine corporate would be happy that a sick worker was made to cook. Edit. Didn't read the very end. Looks like he got what was coming then. Nice little bit of pro-revenge at the end of boot. Good for you, XX. I love the mindset behind this garbage. I didn't schedule enough people during cold and flu season to be able to deal with inevitable illness. Therefore, I will threaten you and your job until you come to work sick and then act like it's your fault. This is what happens when managers aren't required to be competent, but are instead the guy who is willing to put up with everyone's garbage for an extra 50 cents per hour and a free meal instead of an employee discount. I also used to work occasionally in the same restaurant. I was once feeling very sick after being worked too hard by that company. Now, I'll say I'm not a quiet vomiter at all, and I threw up in the back sink. I wasn't sent home. A different time. I woke up during the night and began throwing up. By 4 a.m., I was 2 hours away from my start, so I called in sick and all was well. I tried going back to sleep, and at 6:30 a.m., I'm awoken by a call from my business manager, telling me I have to come in and work. I once had a kidney stone and the same business manager told me to suck it up and take some painkillers, as it can't be that bad. They let me go home 1 hour early, so instead of trying to go in, I called out for a few days instead of getting trapped there and having to work a full 9 hours. Fuck that place. Maybe the company-owned ones are better, but seriously, don't let your kids work for a franchise-owned restaurant. A year or two ago, my wife, fiancé at the time, and I worked at the same restaurant and took a week off to go on vacation. Why this is funny is a bit multi-layered, since the first thing to mention is we had put this time off on the calendar, like 6 months in advance. That's the first thing. The second note is that in the month leading up to our vacation week, we had been losing cooks left and right until it was down to the point where I had been working for a month straight. No days off, with 2 or 3 doubles every week. And this wasn't the manager's. It was a family-owned place, not a chain, even intentionally trying to work me to death. There just literally wasn't anyone else to work the hours. Or at least no one else they could trust. By the end of those 25 long days, I was almost falling asleep standing up on the line. It was not good. But then vacation week rolls around. I was almost positive I wasn't going to get time off anymore, even though it had been requested way in advance. But then I get it. Woo. After working with no time off for 25 days and right before leaving for vacation, you know what we did? The theater we ran had an all-nighter scheduled with some of the kids. At first it looked like not enough were going to show and we could cancel it. But the handful that did show really wanted it to happen. Alright, so I'm celebrating getting time off finally by staying up all night. Super. That's when I started feeling unwell. I'm not sure where it came from, but something in me just didn't feel right. I spent the next week slowly dying while we were in Chicago. It was not great. As nice as it was to not be working, I wasn't enjoying the trip as much as I should have. As the week was coming to an end and I was still feeling like shit, I let the owner know before even leaving Chicago, and he said if I really wasn't feeling well I should not come in. After sweating through that first night back but not feeling like death in the morning, I thought I might be okay finally, and I knew for a damn fact they needed me. So I went back to work. Literally everyone asked if I was okay. Well, front of house at least, since apparently I was turning green or something. Some color I should not be. I went up to the owner and said I may not be able to finish my shift. I was on a double that day. He took one look at me and told me just hang tight for an hour while he gets someone else in, and then I could go. Who he was bringing in I have no idea. Basically every cook on the schedule was already there. But whatever. When we left we went straight to a clinic and I fell asleep in the room waiting for the doctor to show up. After he got done I found out I had a viral infection. Oh, so not a cold like I was hoping for. Since you can just get over those. You don't really have to do anything major to get better from a cold. But a viral infection? Yeah, you don't get over one of those. I hadn't even sent the text telling my boss what was up before he told me I had the next couple days off to recover. I think he might have texted me that while I was asleep in the doctor's office. I'm not sure what kind of schedule magic he pulled to make that one work, since I knew my co-workers well enough to know no one was going to willingly cover my shifts. But it worked out somehow. I believe I was also sharding myself that week, and they knew it. As ghetto as they were, I think when I'm at the point where I am uncontrollably shitting myself, maybe there is something actually wrong. I think that might have been why I tried to go in, even though I knew I wasn't 100%. It was just to show them that, yeah, I just had a week off, but I am in no shape to be back. So don't give me any shit. I already had plenty of that for taking a couple more days off. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Just FYI, colds are viral infections. There are a gazillion kinds of viruses, and it sounds like you didn't have the kind that cause colds, but something else, like norovirus or something. This reminds me of one story. My work required us to call in sick before 9 a.m. I woke up at 10, feeling horrible. I called in, telling them I had a banging headache, felt seriously nauseous, and was lightheaded. They told me I didn't call in time, so I had to come in. I worked at a job center that sent out people to festivals, football stadiums, and other such places. I had to travel 5 hours mostly by bus to the office before going to location. On my way to the office, I started feeling more nauseous in the bus and puked on my way walking to the office from the bus station. About a minute from my work, I got in, looking like I was dying. They took one look and told me to go home. I wasted 3 hours going to work and made myself more sick by going, which could have been avoided by them believing me. I work in a fast food restaurant too, and I swear it's like part of their code that you have to guilt your employees into coming in even when they are clearly sick. The same thing happened to a buddy of mine. We had 3 other people call in, and our GM basically told him he had no choice even though he had a lung infection and was seriously ill. They've tried doing it to me too, but I refused to come in. Now I'm going back to school so I don't have to deal with this crap anymore. I remember managers like this in the food business. Once at a restaurant I worked at, one of the waitresses had bronchitis and could barely even talk, had a fever, face was red, the whole bit. No one was able to cover her shift due to vacation times, and the manager demanded she come to work, or else she would be fired. I ended up helping with most of her tables on top of my own, making sure to give her any tips. It wasn't her fault she needed help that night. Still gets me blood boiling when I think about that manager though. I'm glad that worked out for you. My health was ruined at 16 thanks to their shitty practices. Was carrying my food down to the break room in the basement, and my foot caught on the edge of loose rubber, non-slip matting near the top of the stairs. Stairs that were concrete with embedded metal edges. I'm lucky the fall didn't kill me or leave me paralyzed. I was left in agonizing pain, laying at the bottom of the stairs in a puddle of spilled milkshake. No one responds to my screams. This was years before cell phones. I finally managed to stand and slowly crawl my way up the stairs. But I'm hunched over in the worst pain of my life, and can't stand upright. Manager, Terry, refuses my request to go to the hospital, or at least home. Even makes me clean up the spilled food, requiring another painful trip down the stairs, carefully avoiding the loose mat. She also makes me finish my shift, even though it's a blinding snowstorm. The place is empty, and she's sending other employees home. I called in sick the next couple days, because I could barely make it to the bathroom. Never mind do my job, and she threatened to fire me. What really pisses me off is my parents did nothing to warn me of my rights, or of proper legal workplace procedures, this despite both having job-related back injuries I couldn't even get them to take me to the doctor. My parents are malignant narcissists. I wind up with lifelong lumbar issues, including sciatica down both legs, at the tender age of 16. And there were no consequences for my employer or manager. So yeah, fuck that place. Good thing you're in the UK, cause as someone who works several fast food joints in the US, they don't care here. You could literally throw up right in the trash can beside the prep table and back and be expected to keep working, possibly even chided for leaving your post. Lots of places here even require a doctor's note if you need to miss just one day. I worked one job where even with a doctor's note certifying how sick you were, you could be fired if you were unable to work 3 shifts in a row. I was as bad off as you were one time, pale as a ghost and holding onto the counter to stay upright, and the only reason I was allowed to go was because it was slow enough that we could afford to send someone home. It's pretty crazy. Americans go to work like this all the time. Sad face. Oh ha, I have never heard of a Mickey D's in the US with a sick policy like this. But maybe with the current situation, it hasn't changed. I've had 3 sick days in the 3 years I've been at my store, and every single time they make you feel like shit. The one time I had sickness and diarrhea and rang in and my store manager picked up, she proceeded to tell me to come in and I outright told her no. In my fever I then recorded the toilet. I didn't realize until the next day, tears of joy. I came in a few days later and offered to show her the video. She declined. Shame. At my old job, there was a girl who would call in sick sometimes no more than an hour before her shift. And she did it constantly. And every time she did work would call me because I live very close. One day I was sick and called my doctor, and he said he could see me at 4 p.m. My shift started at 3:50. I barely ever called in sick ever. Unless I was dying, which didn't happen. I think it happened like once in the 10 years I worked there. Otherwise I would go in and make them send me home. But more on that in a sec. I called my manager at 1:30 p.m. as soon as I got off the phone with my doctor, and told her I couldn't come and I needed to see my doctor at 4. She flipped on me and told me she was tired of covering for me and the other girl, and I was no longer permitted to call in sick. If I didn't show up that day I was fired. So I showed up, and didn't call in sick for the next 8 years I worked there, including when I had food poisoning and spent 2 hours of my shift throwing up before they sent me home, and nearly bleeding to death due to a chronic illness in which they refused to let me leave until another coworker threatened to take me to the hospital themselves regardless of what work said. But I never called in sick again. Well, you're lucky this happened in the UK. In the US, all the managers would tell you your choices were work or be fired.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.